Hey everyone, welcome back to all my listeners. This is episode number 6 of season 10. Today is Wednesday, October 10th, 2023. My name is Sonal Patel, and this is the Paint the Medical Picture podcast series. All right, you guys, so let's get right into today. It's the second Wednesday of the month, so I'll be getting into the September 2023 OIG Work Plan in today's Newsworthy. And there are 2 work plan updates. So that gives me some ample time today in Trusty Tip to continue shining my light on Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Today, I want to dive into triple-negative breast cancer. And of course, I'll go ahead and close out today's episode and round it out with a remarkable quote on perseverance by Walter Elliot. So let's get into Newsworthy. The month of September's OIG Work Plan updates. There are 2 updates to the OIG Work Plan for the month of September. The first is titled Audit of Round 2021 of the Durable Medical Equipment, Prosthetics, Orthotics, and Supplies Competitive Bidding Program. This report is expected from the Office of Audit Services. CMS administers a competitive bidding program under which prices for selected durable medical equipment, prosthetics, orthotics, and supplies furnished in specified areas are determined through a competitive bidding process. Federal law requires OIG to assess the process used by CMS to conduct the competitive bidding and subsequent pricing determinations under the first 2 rounds. Federal law also permits OIG to continue to verify such calculations for subsequent rounds. OIG will review the process used by CMS to conduct competitive bidding and to make subsequent pricing determinations during round 2021 of the competitive bidding program. This final report is expected in fiscal year 2024. The second OIG Work Plan update for September 2023 is titled Audits of Medicare Part C Unlinked Chart Review Diagnosis Codes. This report is coming from the Office of Audit Services. Payments to Medicare Advantage, or MA, organizations are risk adjusted on the basis of each enrollee's health status. MA organizations are required to submit risk adjustment data to CMS according to CMS instructions. CMS allows MA organizations to conduct chart reviews of enrollee medical record documentation to identify diagnosis codes that providers either number 1, did not originally provide the MA organization, or number 2, that they provided the MA organization in error. For some chart reviews known as unlinked chart reviews, CMS does not require that the MA organization identify the specific date of service for previously unidentified diagnosis codes. CMS also allows MA organizations to submit chart review results to CMS for inclusion in calculating in each enrollee's risk score. Miscoded diagnoses may cause CMS to pay MA organizations improper amounts. For these audits, OIG will focus on enrollees who had diagnoses identified from unlinked chart reviews that resulted in increased risk adjustment payments from CMS to MA organizations. For these enrollees, the OIG will determine whether all of the diagnosis codes that the MA organization submitted to CMS for use in CMS's risk adjustment program, including the diagnosis codes submitted via unlinked chart reviews, complied with federal requirements. This final report is expected in fiscal year 2026. And now it's time for my best practice tips in Trusty Tip. So in today's compliance tip, let's get into the details of triple-negative breast cancer. I continue shining my light on Breast Cancer Awareness Month this entire month of October. So, what is triple-negative breast cancer? According to the CDC, triple-negative breast cancer is a kind of breast cancer that does not have any of the receptors that are commonly found in breast cancer. Now, there are 3 common receptors that include, number 1, the female hormone estrogen, number 2, the other female hormone, progesterone, And finally, third, for a protein called human epidermal growth factor, also known as HER2. Now, if your cancer has any of these three receptors, doctors do have a few options, like hormone therapy or other drugs that they can use to help destroy the cancer cells. But if you have triple negative breast cancer, it means those three receptors aren't there. So doctors have fewer options for treatment. Fortunately, chemotherapy is still an effective option. So, how is triple negative breast cancer treated then? Often, patients first need to have a lump removed, a lumpectomy, or the entire breast removed, a mastectomy. Then they have chemotherapy treatments to target any cancer cells that can't be seen, those cells remaining in the breast or that may have spread into other parts of the body. Sometimes doctors recommend chemotherapy before surgery to shrink the cancer. Now let's unpack some of the basics of a lumpectomy. With lumpectomy, a surgeon removes the lump from your breast. He or she also removes nearby lymph nodes, which are those little oval-shaped organs that are part of your immune system, to see if the cancer has spread there. The surgery should take an hour or two. Most women spend the entire day at the hospital and usually do not need to stay overnight. Now, let's unpack some basics on mastectomy. For a mastectomy, your surgeon removes the breast and nearby lymph nodes to see if the cancer has spread. Some women choose to have breast reconstruction during the same surgery. And what about radiation? Lumpectomies are usually followed by radiation therapy. This is where high energy radiation is given to your breast to kill any remaining cancer cells. It usually takes about 20 minutes per day. Most women go in 4 to 5 days a week for about 6 weeks. You'll see a radiation doctor to have this done. And what about chemotherapy? Cells from the cancer may have spread somewhere else in your body. The goal of chemotherapy is to kill those cancer cells wherever they may be. Chemotherapy lowers the chance that your cancer will grow or come back. So, what about the test it takes to tell you that you have triple negative breast cancer? Now, there's been a world of change and advancement in genetic testing over recent years. There is genetic testing for oncology that exists. And in our CPT coding books, there's an entire section for proprietary laboratory analyses. Proprietary laboratory analyses, or PLA, are codes describing proprietary clinical laboratory analyses and can be either provided by a single or sole source laboratory, or licensed or marketed to multiple providing laboratories, like those that are cleared or approved by the Food and Drug Administration. That's our FDA. Now, this particular subsection of codes includes advanced diagnostic laboratory tests and clinical diagnostic laboratory tests, as defined under the Protecting Access to Medicare Act of 2014. These analyses may include a range of medical laboratory tests, including, but not limited to, multi-analyte assays with algorithmic analyses, as well as genomic sequencing procedures. The descriptor nomenclature follows, where possible, existing code conventions. Now, there's a specific CPT code, 0153U, which is defined as oncology, breast, mRNA, gene expression profiling by next generation sequencing of 101 genes, utilizing formalin-fixed, paraffin-embedded tissue, algorithm reported as a triple negative breast cancer, clinical subtypes with information on immune cell involvement. But you've got to be aware and be very mindful that Medicare for Novitas has a proposed new local coverage determination, or LCD, that includes coverage indications, limitations, and medical necessity requirements that will be released soon for open public comment period. Now, there's also an active local coverage article for billing and coding for molecular pathology and genetic testing that includes so many details on painting the medical picture. Now, the documentation requirements in this LCA include that all documentation must be maintained in the patient's medical record and made available to the MAC contractor upon request. Every page of the record must be legible and include appropriate patient identification information, like their complete name as well as the date of service. Now, the documentation must include the legible signature of the physician or NPP that's responsible for and providing the care to the patient. Also, a requirement is that the submitted medical record must support the use of the selected ICD-10-CM codes. Those submitted CPT HCPCS codes must describe the service performed. Now, in accordance with CFR Section 410.32, the medical record must contain documentation that the testing is expected to influence treatment of the condition toward which the testing is directed and will be used in the management of the beneficiary's specific medical problem. The medical record must support that the referring or ordering practitioner who ordered the test for a specific medical problem is treating the beneficiary for this specific medical problem. An example of the documentation that could support the practitioner's management of the patient's specific medical problem would be at least 2 E&M visits performed by the ordering/referring practitioner over the previous 6 months. The medical record must include documentation of how the ordering or referring practitioner used the test results in the management of the beneficiary's specific medical problem. The ordering physician or NPP documentation in the medical record must include, but is not limited to, the history and physical or exam findings that support the decision making, the problems or diagnoses, the relevant data, which means that lab testing, those imaging results, etc. The medical record from the ordering physician or NPP must clearly indicate all tests that are to be performed. Documentation requirements of the performing laboratory, when requested, include, but are not limited to, lab accreditation, test requisition, test record and procedures, reports, both preliminary and final, as well as quality control records. And finally, I focus Season 10 Spark on perseverance. I want this 10th season Spark to be filled with our world's thought leaders, writers, artists, philosophers, everyone who inspires the need for perseverance in all we strive to do. So, in this week's inspiring quote in Spark is from Walter Elliot. Perseverance is not a long race. It is many short races, one after the other. Couldn't agree more, right? This quote reminds us that we are doing the right thing, working. This quote encourages us to keep going, to be motivated and inspired by our efforts. This quote encourages us to look at perseverance as something that we already do every single day. Remember, we can persevere by accomplishing daily goals that serve our greater purpose. I'm happy Walter Elliot's spark still burns brightly in all of us today. So that wraps up today's episode. And as always, I appreciate you all diving into today with me. If you want more information from me, please go ahead and follow me on LinkedIn. I'll leave links to everything in the show notes below. All right, you guys, as I wrap up today, I just wanted to let you all know that I'm going to be speaking on November 11th and 12th with my very good friend, Kimberly Jolivet Williams, who, as you remember, was a guest way back here on season 4. Now, she's having this incredible 2023 Virtual Business of Healthcare Colloquium. And on that one weekend, you can receive 21 CEUs. Just an incredible lineup of speakers, myself included. Now, just until October 15th, you can use my exclusive discount code of PAINT10 to purchase your tickets to the event. Now, I cannot wait. All the details will be in my show notes. The link will be there that take you to the event details. So I hope you guys will attend this wonderful, wonderful event. Now, I do hope you guys are making time for yourselves, right? In this very, very stressful, hectic life that we lead, make time for yourselves, carve precious time outside of work to really live and do what you want to do, see what you want to see, and definitely go where you want to go. And on that note, I'm definitely, for the first time in a very long time, taking my own advice. I'm going to be heading off to Sicily for the entire week and really taking opportunity for myself to decompress and enjoy life. Anyways, you guys, I wish you all an amazing, and incredibly happy week ahead. Thank you so much for listening on today's episode, and I hope every week with me brings you closer to helping your providers paint a masterpiece. See you next Wednesday.